What's up, guys? Travis Peters here with the Increased Life. I got my good friend Rob Thompson on the line today. He's a buddy of mine. He has been through Increase University, Kingdom Money Mastery. We're part of a local mastermind together. Rob's awesome, just man of faith, husband, father, just a spirit-led entrepreneur, just doing
Let's
big
go.
things in the
Let's
city.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. So from time to time we hop on and do a little consulting. He kind of picks my brain on a couple things. And I think what's cool is like I want to bring up he's had some rapid success, some rapid increase in his life lately. And I just wanted him to talk a little bit about why you think that has happened. Because most of the time success comes one way, but people perceive it as coming another way. Well, yeah. Rob did great because his whole family's entrepreneurial, and he was born an entrepreneur, and he was groomed by the biggest entrepreneurs. And somebody gave him his parents gave him $500,000 to start a business and weren't going to let him fail. So that's why he's successful. Things like this, what people think and perceive, and I want to show them that that's not the case, that if we implement simply what the Bible instructs us to do, if we live for God, put him first, the other parts start to fall into place. There's some tactics that come in, there's some strategy, absolutely. But I truly believe from the bottom of my heart, we put God first, we seek him in all that we do, he will show us which path to take. And so I think Rob's a great example of that. And I've got to be around him for years and just see him kind of crush it in life. And I kind of want to just have him on the show and talk with him a little bit and ask some questions and just hear a little bit about the recent kind of journey, if you will, experiences that you've been on.
Totally, man. Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, Trav. I grew up North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. Shout out to the Southeast, and but single parent. Mom, two kids. My dad died when I was 2 years old, and so no silver spoon. You know, uh, a lot of perceived perceived disadvantage statistically when you look at what the statistics say for kids growing up in single parent homes, specifically African American males growing up in single parent homes, and defied the odds not because of anything special per se, but I think a lot of the things that you talk about, um, just the mindsets that early on my mom would just begin to instill in us. Like one of the first books that she put in our hand was The Richest Man in Babylon. When I was like 11 years old, I had no idea
Wow.
what this book was about, and we would get through some of the early fables. Yeah, I know, right? What
Right here.
crazy.
What?
Yeah, bro. So
I did
like
not know that.
The Millionaire Mind was another one. And so I'm like 11 or 12 and she's handing us these books. She turned our dining room into a library.
Bro,
And
okay, no, in a way you did have an advantage because
yeah.
your mom was doing those things. My parents didn't do
Yeah,
those things. Oh, that's awesome.
dude, like,
Wow.
so there was no china. Our china cabinet was full of books. There was no china in our china cabinet. And so, at the time, we didn't think anything was different about that. We just thought that was kind of normal. And so I would even say we didn't necessarily maybe even take advantage of it as far as we could have, as far as I feel like now having that knowledge. But if anything, it sowed those seeds. So early on, we knew that we wanted to be a success. And we knew that that was a part of what was in our DNA, where our future was. That's where we were headed. We were gonna
Yeah.
be successful. Didn't really know all the ins and
We
outs and
were gonna
details, but
though. We were
we were
gonna.
gonna. Yeah, this is like the expectation, right? Like, hey, like this is what you're gonna do. And so
I think
yeah,
that's
man.
important. I think that's important. I think
Yeah.
there's too many parents, like parents listen up, like that's an important expectation to instill in your kids, I believe. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to someone the other day and they're Christians, but they still have this like, man, I hope and the kids are young, but it's still like,
Yeah.
I hope it works out for them. Like I hope they make
Yeah.
these choices. We'll
Yeah.
see. Every kid's independent. Every kid's different. Man, all you can do is kind of hope. No, not my kids.
Right,
Like,
right.
I'm expecting them to win. I was
Yeah.
just my daughter and her friend, they started making bracelets out of these little rubber band things. They're pretty cool. And
Wow.
we're like, "Hey, can we go door to door to sell them?" And inside I'm like, I
I
mean, I'm
love it.
excited. Well, like real talk though, like as a parent, like I'm excited about it, but then I'm also like, that means I got to go door to door with them. You know what I mean? It was a
Oh,
holiday,
man.
like I was just trying to chill, like I had plans, and like,
Yes.
but then I'm like, all right, let's go. They made
Yeah.
$41.
Let's go.
Yeah. They're also
Oh.
really cute little girls. So everyone was like,
Oh, yeah.
$10, keep the change. Here's one
Oh,
dude
yeah.
was like, here's $20. I don't even want any bracelets. It's like, all right,
Oh,
you know,
wow. That's
great,
great.
great community neighbor. It was awesome. Like, bless me, bless them. They were
Dang.
thrilled. And each time they made a sale, man, they were like charged with that. Anyone who's done an entrepreneurial adventure and you make a sale, man, you get this like adrenaline boost, dopamine thing. Like, it's the most addicting feeling. So I was
So
pointing out
awesome.
that feeling in them because I want them to become addicted to that feeling and want that feeling at an early age. It feels way better to make
Wow.
a sale of something, of a business transaction, than it does to work for a paycheck. I mean,
Oh, gosh. So true.
it's a completely different feeling. And if you can get that feeling at age 8, one of my daughters
Wow.
on 5, I'm like, let's get this in them. Let's
That's
go.
next level, man. That's next level. I love it. I love it. And that's just the fact that she's thinking that way. Kids a lot of times they model what they see. They're sponges. So what their
Yeah.
environment, whatever their environment they're in, they reciprocate that. And that's so cool because you've leveled up. I've heard you share a little bit about your story, and you didn't come from a family with a silver spoon in your mouth. And so you've leveled up, and now she's gonna level up even more. I mean, that's incredible,
That's
dude.
that's the key. Like, you want, there's we didn't mean to talk about parenting, but let's talk about parenting. Is
Yeah.
there's this completely backwards way of thinking where I'll see people come up and become successful, or even like kind of successful. Like maybe you make 100 grand or something, and
Hmm.
they'll say things like, "Hey, I started from nothing, so my kid is going to learn the same way." So they're going to start from nothing. I didn't
Mm.
get a nice car handed to me. I had to work for my first car. So I'm not going to give my kid a nice car. They need to learn those lessons that way also. Hey, and then there's people, we've heard Bill Gates and different people who've made all the money and were like, hey, I'm not really going to give an inheritance to my kid. I want them to learn the lessons and start from zero like I did. That's a completely wrong way to think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if we're trying to literally push the kingdom forward, or even just the human race forward, we need to be
Yeah.
starting from the shoulders, ideally from our parents.
So true.
My kids need to
So
go
true.
further than I did, because otherwise, what did I do with my time here?
Yeah.
Just make a success from me? That's selfish.
Yeah.
But if I can get my 5-year-old and my 8-year-old, like starting at 5 and 8, I started when I was about 20, about 28 technically, when I started doing entrepreneur stuff. I'm like, they can get a 20-year jump on me with some mentorship and some coaching.
Wow.
You know where
Wow.
they'll be millionaires by the time they're 28. They
Yeah.
will. And we say things like, "Oh, I want them to get a job so they learn these lessons. I want them to do it the way I did it so they learn these lessons." You don't have to learn lessons that way.
Not
All
at
those
all.
lessons can be taught other ways. The scriptures, the Bible says in Timothy that scripture is there for learning and for edification. It can teach you what you need to learn. So they don't
Yeah.
have to learn the same way you learned. They need to learn. They don't have to learn the same way you learn. There might be a better way. You know,
Right. Right.
God will equip you with that. So let me say one more thing on this, because this is, I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
said.
No. It's
A
good,
while
man.
ago, I became kind of uh, fascinated, I guess, with the Jewish culture.
Mm.
And the reason is, if you hear of a business deal going down and there's some land in a prime part of your city, and like, oh yeah, they just bought up this land, they're building a new development, they're building all the stuff. It was like $128 million. Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, yeah, it was so and so Jewish guy. You'd be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jewish guy. They're wealthy, they're
Yeah.
successful, they do big moves. Perfect. Well, in my mind, I think that should be a Christian's reputation.
It's good.
I think it should have. You heard that same story, be like, oh yeah, yeah. Rob bought it. He's a Christian. Oh yeah, Christian. That makes sense. They're
Christian
wealthy.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, they got God's financial advantage. Like, that makes sense. course, they got God inside. The Holy Spirit leads them, guides them, helps them with these deals. It makes sense. But instead, we don't think that way.
Right.
Instead, it's more like, oh, here's this guy rolling up in a busted up car asking for money. Must be a Christian.
Must be
It's like,
yeah.
so anyway, I became thinking about this, and I'm like, why is it that Jewish culture is so wealthy and successful? So I watched podcasts, I read books, I read blogs, I did all things,
Wow.
and I started to try to figure it out. And one of the main reasons is simple. It's kind of what we touched on. It's an expectation.
Mm,
So instead of asking our kids, uh, maybe this is a podcast about coaching entrepreneurial kids.
maybe, yeah.
Instead of asking your kids like, "Hey, where do you want to work?" Talking about going to college and all these different things. Instead, it's what business do you want to own?
I love it. I love
So
it.
that's how they think. And then I even saw a deal where they're like, in most cases, the Jewish parents do not push their kids to go to college.
Wow.
They typically push them to go to college if they can use what they learn to accelerate their business.
Okay.
So you need to go and learn these skills so that when you get out, your check cashing business can go to the next level. Or
Wow. Wow.
if you're going to go to become a dentist or a doctor, that's cool too. But you're going to come out and start your own dental practice and have your own dental business, not working for someone
Wow.
else, but you're going to go out and start your own practice. So those are the
That's
times
huge.
for higher education. Otherwise, why? Let's get out.
Right.
And then the other cool thing, I can kind of geek out on it, but when early 1800s, mid 1800s, around there, a lot of Europe, and don't quote me if I get the dates wrong,
Yeah.
don't slay me. This is the concept. Uh,
Okay.
the A lot of the European countries left Norway, Sweden, all the different places, came to America in search of work because things were booming, industrial revolution, all those different things. So things were booming. Well, the Jews came over saying, we need to go over there to give those people something to work, some place to work. So
Wow.
they came over looking for work. The Jewish came over saying, we're going to start the businesses that they're going to work for.
Wow.
And it's a
That's
simple
amazing.
expectation. It's a simple
Yeah.
mindset shift. It's not harder to do things that way. It's not crazier. It's just a
Yeah.
different thought process and pattern. And I'm telling you, it leads to a way more impactful life
It's
being
amazing.
a business owner versus working a day job you don't really like and can barely tolerate.
Yeah. I
So
love it, man. I've seen, my son, he just turned 5, and I've seen him do the same thing. He's seen, us operate different businesses, and he gets the neighborhood kids together. He's 5 years old, and he's like, "Hey, listen, we're gonna go to all these houses, and I'm gonna let us pull their weeds, and you guys are gonna pull their weeds." And he's giving them jobs. You pull the weeds. You'll be my secretary. You'll be this.
what?
5 years old, dude. Quincy is a hustler, bro. He's a hustler, man. So he's hustling these neighbors, knocking on their door, and they see his smiling face, missing teeth. He's losing teeth now. Can we pull your weeds? Of course. They're just like, sure, go ahead. And he's like, okay, you start here. He's like, loves
Dude,
to do.
ain't nobody gonna say no to that.
Exactly.
Hey,
But
I
I
don't
mean,
have any cash to pay you. No problem. Here's my dad's cash app. Just send it money.
yes, yes. And I think it's exactly what you said. It's yes, I think a part of it is, uh, at that age, I think it's even more so like he just sees it. He sees it modeled. And so I didn't even have to come out and tell him, hey, Quincy, like, this is the way to do it. This is the way to live. Don't go get a job working for somebody. Start your own business. So it's almost like he just sees us do that, and that's all he knows.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
he
That's the
thinks that that's
standard.
just the way you do it. Um, dude,
Those,
there's something to that.
those are seeds in him, and let's
Yeah.
like cultivate that.
Yeah. 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 And one of the things that I love about, I think, as parents, it's easier for us to begin to, cultivate those seeds, or not even just cultivate them, but to put our kids in that environment if we do have that mindset shift. And that's one of the things that I love about your courses, your podcast, dude, is like, it's not the normal it's not the normal way a lot of evangelical Christians here in America, how we're taught to think when it comes to money, when it comes to, working, when it comes to, what our position is supposed to be in regards to wealth. And so, it's just a completely different mindset, which makes it's just interesting because our faith is has a very strong Jewish tradition, and based on your research and your study that you're finding out, it almost sounds like it's antithetical, with what you're studying with these guys, and so yeah, man.
I think I think that's super cool. And the you're right. Like our kids are modeling us more than we realize.
Yeah,
So I even think about things like, so I've got three daughters, and at some point they're going to marry amazing men of God, and it's going to
yeah.
be phenomenal. And how do I know that? Because I'm modeling what an amazing man of God looks like.
Wow, it's
So I
good.
become the standard. And so now when not now, but in many years when they
Yeah.
are dating, uh they will know what to look for. And I will be the measuring stick. So most of them, like in the mornings, they'll come in and they see me with my Bible open on my desk right here. Well, if they start talking to a guy and they find out he sleeps until 10 a.m. every day and then goes
Mm,
to his cell phone store job and hates it, I think they're going to be like, ew. And he
yeah,
doesn't go to church that much, and
yeah.
he doesn't tithe. I mean, we've got things like in our life where it's like, hey, I mean, they're like I said, they're 2, 5, and 8. I'm talking to the 5-year-old and the 8-year-old about what their husbands are going to do.
Wow,
We're talking about their
wow.
tithers. They're going to be filled with the Holy Spirit. They're going to speak in tongues. They're going to be at church every time the doors are open. They're going to be plugged in. And if they don't have those three things, we're not interested. That's not husband
Yeah,
material. And so they're like getting that stuff in them
that's
now,
huge.
early age, so that that standard is set. And if, like I said, with like they see me reading the Word and reading the Bible, and they don't like get it yet per se,
Right.
but someday they're going to think it's weird if a guy doesn't do that.
Yeah,
I want them to
yeah,
think that's weird. I want
for
them to
sure.
be unattracted to that.
Yeah. No, that dude, that's so good. I think about how, whenever we set those examples, a lot of times it causes you as a parent to even check yourself. You're like, okay, like what one of my cousins, uh he has a funny way of saying it. He's like, man, my daughters, they're almost to that age where they're going to be able to look at what we say and match it up with our actions and be able to tell if we've just been blowing smoke, all their lives. Like
Wow.
he's like, my daughter's almost to that age where I'm telling her, and she has a perception that we're killing it. We're doing well, obviously spiritually, we're growing, in our faith, we're growing well financially. And she's almost to that age where she's gonna be able to look and be like, okay, daddy, you either did it or you punked out. You
Yeah.
either did it or you serving somebody else. And he's like, I don't have time to waste. I got to do it. And it's like a wake up call for parents. And it starts with our mindset, right? But it's like, hey, if we can get the right mindset for ourselves, right? And make sure that we're living that out. Man, if I was still working at my job, I have to say, I have to think that that's what I would be modeling for my kids. That they're going to think, okay, that's what you do. You go and you get a job and you work for somebody else.
Yeah.
But now they're seeing something different. So they're like, oh, okay, you start your own business. That's what's normal. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, man, I think it's good. It's a good checkup from the neck up for us as parents, man, to really, we're a strong believer in our actions really tell us what we believe. And so it's a really good checkup from the neck up to say, like, hey, what do I really believe based on what I've produced in my life? And if we don't like what we see, we can change it. That's the good news. Um, Especially before our kids get that to that age, like my cousin says, where they're gonna know if you've been faking the funk all this time. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. And I think I want to say this to the parents too, is like Rob and I aren't talking like um we have to go manufacture, put on, we have to like go put on a show so
right,
that when
no,
the kids see it, they'll think that's what you do. What he's talking about is we just become that person and they
100%.
see us become or being that person. We
Yeah.
level up or have leveled up to certain degrees, and we're always working on the next level. We're always growing,
Hmm.
progressing, advancing, increasing, right? We never stop learning and growing. And our kids can see that. So it's
Yeah.
not like, I'm gonna make sure there's a Bible on my desk when they come in at 7:30, so that it's not that.
Not at all.
I literally start my day in the Word
Yeah.
and have them catch a glimpse of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They see who Rob has become, and they just happen to catch a glimpse of it, and
Yeah.
that's what you do. And so it's why people get that reputation of like, oh yeah, yeah, Rob's kids are successful because his dad is successful. He was lucky. No, his dad put the work in and should
Yeah.
be honored and praised for. I listened to a podcast of this dude who's like a third generation preacher.
Mm.
His dad was a preacher and in the oil business. He's a preacher in the oil business. His dad was a preacher in the oil business, and his grandpa was a preacher in the oil business. But he was telling us
Wow.
about his grandpa, and his grandpa, uh, you know, all these guys were a little bit older, up in collected a little more birthdays, and
Yeah.
so probably early 1900s. The grandpa comes over from whatever country, and you got to think like he's just a bad to the bone dude. Like he's bold,
Right.
he's brave, he's courageous. He started an oil company with nothing.
It's amazing.
He had to go out and raise money and talk people into it, come up with a plan, figure it out, make some bold, courageous moves and get after it.
Yeah.
But because his grandfather did that, it built an empire. And that
Wow.
empire could be passed on to the son. The son took it to another level. And now the grandson is taking it to an even higher level
It's amazing.
and preaching the gospel at the same time, making God look good while also owning these empire style companies
Wow.
and businesses, employing thousands of people, giving people jobs and homes and new life and new hope and just doing amazing things. But the grandson like honors the grandfather.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh yeah, that dude's successful because blah blah blah.
Right. Right.
Hold on. My grandfather did something awesome and we ain't gonna cheapen it.
That's
We ain't
right.
gonna knock it. And for a lot of you guys listening, when I heard that story, I thought I get to be the grandfather.
That's right. Yeah.
Don't be
Well,
upset because your grandfather and their dad didn't build something
yeah.
amazing and hand it over to you, give you a head start. Just be the person who gets to start the head start for the rest of your generations.
Yeah. It fires you up. Doesn't it fire you up? Like for me, when I hear that, it's like whenever people are like, well, I think I should maybe, man, if I start this business, I don't know, maybe it won't, maybe I won't make enough that I was making before, and I'll end up, losing it all. And it's like, no, 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 no. You talk about this. Flip the question. If you don't start this business, what are you gonna lose out on?
Yeah.
And I think it fires me up to say like, man, you know what? Like I do want my kids to have I can't afford to stay where I'm at doing the same things I'm doing. I've got to flip the script for them. I've got to take the step, got
Yes.
to put it out there on the table. And it's worth it, right? It's worth it because of what is possible if I do it. And so it's just flipping the question and allowing that to, man, really incite you and excite you to say, it's worth taking the risk. It's worth changing my mindset so that my future, my seed can experience breakthrough. They don't have to be slaves. Good Lord.
Yes.
If I can, and so anyway, it's it's exciting, man. It's exciting for us every day. Me and my wife, we were talking about this last night. Some of our neighbors, they're just like, "Oh man, got to get ready to get up and go to this job I hate." And we kind of look at each other and we kind of snicker because it's like, man. And when we talk to people, we're talking to them and we're just like they're like, "Well, I want to," but it's just like it's exactly what we're talking about now. Don't look at it as far as what you could lose. Look at it as far as what you could be leaving on the table if you don't do this. So anyway, man, we're fired up about it. We're excited. Um,
I,
you
I,
know, it's,
I think one of the biggest tragedies, Rob's heard me become more and more passionate. I'll have you tell a story here in a minute, but more and more passionate about getting people out of their day jobs
Yeah.
because I guess I hadn't necessarily thought about it like that, like what you're saying, where it's like I had to change that. Like I'm the family tree changer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rob's probably the family tree changer. Okay.
Yeah.
You're listening to this. Most likely you're the family tree changer. If
100%.
you got the courage to do it, if you got the guts to do it. So, which you should, because like he's
Yeah.
saying, life on the other side is phenomenal. But
Yeah.
the tragedy is the like if you could look back, I mean, I guess you probably can, there's probably ways, but look back more deeper on your family tree and just realize that like that dude was in a job he hated. My grandpa, my dad, and just going down that line, great grandpa, great grandpa, like just doing things that paid the bills. It's basically
Yeah.
I teach this in the courses and stuff, but it's just it's a slightly higher level of being a hunter gatherer. It's like the modern day hunter gatherer.
That's a good point.
There was a friend of my wife's years ago where she was a school teacher and her husband worked too, but she went to teach and her paycheck covered the daycare for her 4 kids.
Mhm.
So she was like, wait a minute, what? This is
Yeah.
like being a hunter gatherer, basically. It's like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
go out to get food, but that food only lasts me for 1 day. And then I got to go back out tomorrow to get more food
Food.
that
Yeah.
lasts me for 1 day. So she quit her job and just stayed home with the kids.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was like, wait, what am I
Might as
doing?
well. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm literally working to pay for you to go to daycare while I work. It's just, but I think a lot of us are doing something like that on different
Right.
levels, right? So
Yeah.
that's maybe an extreme case. But some of you guys are probably in that exact scenario. Do the math, figure it out. But other parts of me, other people are like, I literally go to work so that I can pay the mortgage, so I can pay the car payments, so I can pay the insurance, so I can pay the cell phones, and
Yeah.
literally just to go and exist is all you're doing,
Yeah.
and you're stuck in that loop. Well, what happens is if you don't make the decision, and that's all it is one decision away, backed by faith, backed by belief and trust in God and his promises. If you don't make that change, your kids are going to do the exact same death loop.
Yeah.
And then their kids are going to do the exact same death loop because they're going to see you do it and think that's normal.
Yeah.
And what happens though, here's the problem. If they think that's normal, they can't, they will never get above that because their mind doesn't even think bigger than that. The best their mind will be able to think is maybe I can make more money than my parents did.
Mm.
Who
Wow.
cares if you're still a slave to a day job? Oh, it's not that bad. I don't mind it. There's certain aspects I don't mind. I kind of like these parts. No, shut up. You need to be alive.
Right.
Like you need
Yeah.
to wake
Yeah.
up at 4 a.m. without an alarm clock and be like, I'm ready
Exactly.
for the day. Let's go, baby. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
that's the other side of this. And
Yeah.
you change that, if you make that change and be the family tree changer, and now your kids will see that's the normal.
Yeah.
Oh man, they're gonna come alive, and that's where life is, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't want to tolerate some of the things I talk about with my friends, kind of inner circle talk, is anytime one of us says like with our businesses, we're like, I don't really mind doing that part.
Mm. Yeah.
Red flag, because you were talking about tolerating things, and I don't
It's
want to
good.
tolerate anything. There's
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure I'm ready to like go this far on it, but there's a teaching out there, so to speak, of a famous business guy. It's like 20 years old, but the whole point of it is it was a blog post that went viral,
Mm.
and uh, the point of the post is it's either heck yeah, let's go, or the answer is no. So if
Mm.
it's anything in between, you don't do it. If it's anything in
Wow.
between, I'm not gonna if Rob calls me and is like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? And I'm just like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I probably do. I'm not gonna the answer is no. But if Rob calls
Mm.
me and I'm like, yeah, let's go, let's be great, then I'm gonna
Yeah.
and I don't know if you necessarily ready to say you should live by that philosophy, but there's something there to that. I
Right. Right.
I think there's something there. Because that's pretty much how I feel most days, all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just trying to tell people like that life is available to you. It's available to your kids and your grandkids and their kids. Problem is You didn't see your parents doing it, so you didn't know it was available, and you thought it was only available to the select few, the chosen few with the silver spoon in their mouth, or who
Right.
happened to get, oh, it works for Rob because this multi-millionaire guy just took him under his wing for free and
Yeah.
said, "Come with me in my Rolls Royce every day, and I will teach you." And like, but we subconsciously think that's how it works, and it like
Right.
never works that way.
Never. And I think that's one of the reasons why, as we're sitting in these meetings, and I've told you, I know you have an anointing on your life to set people free from their day jobs. And I use that terminology intentionally, set people free, because that's the people that you talk to that you are liberating know they're not supposed to be there. They
Yes,
know it internally. And because they know it internally and they're making the decision to stay there, they need that push to step in that freedom, to break free. And so we've seen it happen so much where it's just like you talk, and as soon as you share, it's like all of this ripple effect where people are quitting their day jobs, quitting
yeah.
their day job,
Tell
and
them,
it
tell them what happened at that first meeting.
yeah. So a part of the reason that I feel like you've got such an anointing on your life, and I use that word strategically to set people free from their day job, because the people that you're talking to, in a lot of cases, in most cases, they know they're not supposed to be there. They've got this dream to start their own business, this desire. That they've got the idea. They begin to formulate the method. They've already worked on their first viable product. You talk about that. You got to have that one viable product. They've got that down, and they just are hesitating to take the leap. They're not taking the leap because of fear. They're what is it? Paralysis through analysis. Their fear has kept them stuck. So we're in this mastermind group, and there's probably 8 or 9 guys in there. Most of us are working a day job. And this mastermind group is all about leveling up. It's all about starting really, and it's leveling up in our mind first. And as we level up in our mind, it manifests externally, where uh, we're taking what we made annual or monthly or annually, and we're making it monthly. So we're doubling our income. So we're more than that, but
Or not. Yeah.
uh, yeah. So you get the point. So anyway, so we're in this meeting, and everybody in there has this seed in them. They have this seed of entrepreneurship, of business ownership in them, and they're not taking action on it for whatever reason. The predominant reason was fear, but everybody has their own variation of that. And one person asks the question. They say, "Okay, what do we do?" Or let me see, how was it phrased? I think it was something to the effect of, "When do you know? Like, when do you know to take the jump? Do you wait until your income is like your side hustle matches your main income and then you make the switch, or do you do it, when do you make that choice?" And
Yeah.
you pretty much say, "You know what? Be it unto you according to your faith." And I'm gonna plug this in so I don't lose my juice.
Very good. Yeah.
Uh,
Basically, it's like the question was posed. So everyone at this table, they got day jobs, they're married, they got kids. A lot of you guys listening to this, that's you also.
yeah,
And it's like,
yeah,
okay, Trav, we all want to do something different with our lives, but
yeah.
how and when? Is there a time like do you just work on your side hustle until it's making you more money than your day job? Then it's easy to quit, right? Isn't that what you do? Am I,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And
that's never worked for me.
yeah, and I think there was another guy in the room that had already made the jump, and that those were his exact words. He said he was working with a friend of his, and his side hustle was experiencing a relative level of success, but it was just kind of capping out where it was still making less than his day job. And his friend just told him, he just said, "Hey, it's going to stay there until you make the jump. When you make the jump, it's going to see growth. But as long as you keep your day job," he was working at Olive Garden, "as long as you keep working at Olive Garden, you're not going to experience the growth that you want to. You're going to be stuck doing both. And eventually you're going to quit the side hustle and just keep the day job and live miserable. And so when he says this is echoing what you're saying in the meeting, that everybody's thinking, oh, I can raise my side hustle to my main income and then I'll make the switch. And both of you guys are like, no, it doesn't work that way. And I think that was the catalyst for all of us, really, to say, and we really had, it was gut check time at that point. I mean, you said it yourself, be it unto me according to your faith. And I think for me and a lot of those guys, it was what's at stake. You know, we've been talking about parenting, but it's just like, hey, man, we want better for our families, for our kids. And yes, it's a risk, but it's a risk worth taking. It's a risk more than worth taking when you think about all the possibilities and the potential that's there. And so we had to change our mindset to do this, had to step out, uh, move past fear, ask ourselves different questions, still have to get coaching and help to move past what do you call it?
Struggle.
Mindsets of poverty, mindsets and lack.
Yeah.
But as we continue to work on that mind shift change, things change. It shifts. It levels everything up.
Okay. Rob had to end up heading out. He was at his business while we were recording that. So I'm gonna finish this up. We were about wrapping up anyway. But one of the next things we are helping him do is replace himself at his business so that he has more time to do Zoom calls with me and things like this. But uh, we'll probably make a video and release that to you guys as well when that time comes. Anyway, that's what we're working on for him. So here's where he was going is at this mastermind group, I gave some kind of epic speech about how long can you keep on going this way. There was one guy in particular I was directing this to, and it ended up causing, over the next 2 months, it caused 9 people in that room to quit their jobs. And to be honest with you, I feel pretty good about that. You might be thinking, Trav, that's crazy. That's horrible advice. They had debts and mortgages and families and wives and kids and all this stuff. How could you push them to do that? I'm like, I didn't push them to do that. Maybe I pushed them a little bit, but I just kind of told them, I laid it out, man. How long are you going to go on like this? Kids going to go on like this. Their kids going to go on like this. Your parents went on like this. Your grandparents went on like this. Your grandparents went on like this. So many of us are living lives that we are just going to exist and then go to heaven. And Jesus is going to look at you when you get up to those pearly gates and he's going to be like, what'd you do with my stuff? What'd you do with the time I gave you? What'd you do with your window? I sent you down there to serve your generation. I deployed you to go serve to serve your generation. You were born for a time such as this. What'd you do? And you're going to say, I got promoted to manager. I had $1 million in my 401k. Eventually I paid my house off. Then my wife we bought a Winnebago and traveled around when we were 68. And Jesus gonna be like, all right, come on, get in. I don't want that. I want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. You did something. You increased what I gave you. You moved the kingdom. You pushed the needle. You moved the needle forward. You pushed things forward while you were down there. Just like David, you served your generation. Man, I look at it like we got a 100-year window. So I have from 1984 to 2084 to serve my generation, to move the needle for the kingdom, to expand God's kingdom. You got the same window. So we got to ask ourselves, what are we going to do with that? If your goal in life, the highest aspiration you have is to work a nice, cush day job and to pay your bills, have a little extra so you can do your 2 vacations a year, that's it, that's all you're going to do, then I think you've been deceived. I think you're going to miss out on life. And I think God's got eternal plans for you too. And I think some of this down here is just him seeing like, hey, who's going to do something with the stuff and the time I give them? There's a whole parable of the talents. Go reread it. You'll see it in a new light now. Man, you've been faithful with a little. I'm going to make you responsible over much. The parallel to the parable of the talents is the one where he's like, hey, you've been faithful with a little. I'm going to make you ruler over 10 cities. Let's go. Well done. So that's all we were talking about. I'll probably have Rob back on for another video so we can wrap it up properly. But that's where we were heading, is let's change. Let's be family tree changers. It's going to require faith. You're going to need to keep your head in the Word. Man, start your day in the Word. Start your day with God. If you need to, pull up my YouTube channel and start your day listening to one of these podcasts or videos, however you like to consume it. It's going to keep your faith built high. Romans 10:17 says, faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God. So we need to make sure our faith cometh every single morning, so we stay built up, so that fear stays away. So that's kind of my action steps for you. Let's look at changing our family tree. We didn't plan to talk about parenting, but the Lord led us that way. So let's dive into that and let's check ourselves. Man, am I creating that standard I want my kids to see? Or am I creating a standard that's just going to keep them in that loop of average, middle class? You did okay. You survived well. Didn't really do anything. Didn't make a dent. But you survived and went to heaven. If you think that's what this life's about, you're missing it. Cool. You're saved. Awesome. I love it. I'm thankful for it. Let's take that. Let's put it on the shelf. And now let's actually go produce fruit. Remember what Jesus said? He didn't say you'll know my disciples because they prayed the sinner's prayer one time when they were 13. He said you will know my disciples because they produce much fruit. And then later talks in more detail. They produce fruit that lasts. It doesn't say that they produce fruit, because I think we're all kind of producing fruit. But it says they produce much fruit. That's how you know my people. So check yourselves. Are you producing much fruit? Are you giving your kids something? Are you giving your family something to follow? Let's lead so they've got something to follow. I love you guys. This has been an interesting episode. It's been super fun. I'm going to do more like this. I enjoyed it. I like the conversation. Rob's crushing it. The part of the story he didn't tell was his business almost tripled. I'll say it 2.5x'd from the month he quit his day job to the next month. About 45 days around there, 2.5x'd his income. And it's only been up and up from there. I've been working with them. We're making sure mindsets are in the right spot. We're focused on increase, not decrease. We're focused on what if this does work, not what if it doesn't work. And let's change some family trees. Let's help our kids win. Let's make sure they're starting from our shoulders and they're not starting from the ground as well. And let's make sure our shoulders are as high as possible, so that when they come off of our shoulders, they're already way up high in the air. You know what I mean? All right. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I've got more of this stuff coming out. If you're brand new here, got links in the description below. Head over to the Increase Challenge. It's going to start working on your mindset towards increase and abundance and advancement using biblical principles. It is done in a way that you have never heard it taught before. That's what Rob went through. He went through the challenge, Increase University. He went through my Kingdom Money Mastery programs. He went through all these different things so that he was more than prepared to take that leap, to take that jump. He knew exactly what to do and how to think and what scriptures to stand on and how to have the faith for those types of moves. So if you need help with that, make sure you click below. Start with the Increase Challenge. I currently at this time have it set for free. So take advantage of that. Let's start moving towards the goals, dreams, and desires that God put in our hearts. I love you. I'll see you in the next one.